My parents uninvited me to please my brother after I paid $7,000 to save their garage, so I cut them off, and what happened next left them homeless. It was a Sunday morning in late February, the kind that made you want to stay in bed forever. Snowflakes drifted down outside my living room window like someone had ripped open a pillow in the sky. I was on my second cup of coffee, socks pulled high, football rerun on mute, and a blanket across my lap. Life felt quiet. Still, that's when my phone rang. My dad's name flashed on the screen. I picked up without thinking. "Hey, Pop. Everything okay?" Yeah, he said, but there was something off in his tone, too chipper, too forced. "Just wanted to touch base. Your mother and I were finalizing some things for the wedding next weekend. My cousin Jillian's wedding. The one being held at our family's auto shop, decked out to look like a barn chic wonderland. My parents had offered the space up for free, and I had even covered part of the cleanup crew deposit without saying a word." "Cool," I said. "Need help moving chairs or setting up lights?" There was a pause, then a slow exhale. "Actually, that's kind of what I wanted to talk about," he said. "So, listen, Eli's been feeling overwhelmed. You know how he gets. The family stuff lately, it's just a lot for him." I felt my stomach twist, like I already knew where this was going. "What are you saying?" I asked. Dad cleared his throat. "Well, your mother, and I think it might be best if you sat this one out. For the sake of peace." I sat up. "Wait, I'm uninvited? From my own cousin's wedding?" "It's not personal," he said quickly. "We just want things to go smoothly. Eli's had a rough couple of months, and seeing you might just stir things up." I couldn't believe it. Eli, the golden boy, the same brother who ran our family garage into the ground, the one who took out loans in the shop's name to fund some dream about launching a podcast and a YouTube series about automotive philosophy, the one who couldn't change a spark plug to save his life. "Dad," I said slowly, "I paid $7,000 out of pocket to keep that business alive after Eli burned it to the ground. Without me, you wouldn't have that garage to host anything in. You offered," he said. "No one twisted your arm." I clenched my jaw. "And that doesn't mean anything to you?" "You're making this bigger than it needs to be," he replied. "Just let this one go, Vincent. Don't make a fuss." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because it felt so absurd. "Okay," I said. "You got it. No fuss. But I'm done. No more checks. No more deposits. No more bailing anyone out. You tell Eli he can cover the shop's next electricity bill. Vincent." I hung up. I stared out the window as the snow kept falling, feeling like something had quietly broken in me. Not loudly, not with a crash, but like a wire had snapped in the back of my chest and everything had gone slack. They chose him. Again. And I was done pretending it didn't hurt. Growing up, it was always Eli. I was the quiet one, the steady one, the one who got decent grades and worked weekends at Uncle Mike's scrapyard from the time I was 15. Eli, on the other hand, was the prodigy, the artist, the tortured soul who needed time to find himself. I remember one summer when I was 17, working 12-hour shifts in 100-degree heat tearing apart busted radiators, while Eli was posting selfies from a vineyard in southern France. My parents told everyone he was immersing himself in culture. Meanwhile, I came home every night with grease under my nails and a paycheck that went straight to fixing the leaky sink in our kitchen. It was always like that. When Eli flunked out of college for the second time, Mom said the academic system just wasn't built for creative types. When he borrowed $3,000 from Dad to record an album in Nashville, and came back with nothing but a beat-up acoustic guitar and a bunch of blurry Instagram photos, they said, "At least he tried." Tried. That was the magic word in our house. If Eli tried, it was noble. If I failed, it was a lack of effort. After the Nashville disaster, my parents cashed out part of their retirement fund to help Eli open a music studio in the back of the garage. He called it Soundspace. There were plans for weekly jam sessions, recording packages for local artists, even merch. I helped him hang drywall. I even rewired the outlets so he could plug in all his fancy equipment. Within 6 months, the studio was shut down. No clients. Just a lot of late-night brainstorming sessions that sounded a lot like video games and bong hits. That's when I stepped in. The garage was barely scraping by, and the bank was threatening to freeze our account over unpaid invoices. My parents didn't ask. I just moved money from my savings into the business account. I told myself I was doing it for the shop, for our name, for the customers who still trusted us with their cars. But deep down, I think I hoped they'd finally see me. They didn't. Not really. Now, Eli lives in the guest house behind our parents' place. He says it's temporary, that he's working with clients who come over to record. But from what I can tell, it's just his buddies from high school playing Coldplay covers in their socks. He doesn't pay rent. Doesn't pay for groceries. Mom even folds his laundry. I once overheard her telling a neighbor, "Eli has such a sensitive soul. He just needs the right spark." What did I have? Dirty hands and an emergency fund. And now, after everything, I was the one being asked to step aside. For his peace. His comfort. I guess it finally hit me. I was never the son they rooted for. I was just the insurance policy. The backup plan. The one who kept the lights on so Eli could keep dreaming. The following Friday, I logged into the shop's shared bank account like I always did, habit, mostly. But this time, I wasn't checking to make sure the utility payment had cleared. I wasn't double-checking the parts supplier invoice or calculating how much to float my parents to cover the quarter's taxes. This time, I was done. The account was still in my name. When I stepped in to save the place, I told the bank I'd take financial responsibility. At the time, I didn't think twice. It was just a line of numbers tied to a building that carried my family's name. Now, I saw it for what it was, a tether I had wrapped around my own neck. I clicked into the autopay settings first. Electric, gas, water. All of it set to auto-deduct from my checking. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Then I scanned the balance, just over $2,600 left. Enough to coast through a couple weeks, maybe. I transferred it into my personal savings and closed the account. I stared at the confirmation message for a long time. Part of me expected an alarm to go off or some giant red warning flashing. Are you sure you want to do this? But it didn't come. Just a calm little notification saying, account successfully closed. That was it. I stood up from my kitchen table, walked over to my closet, and opened the browser on my phone. 15 minutes later, I had ordered 2 things I'd been putting off for years, a brand new memory foam mattress and a pair of noise-canceling headphones. The mattress cost more than I liked. The headphones were a luxury I'd always talked myself out of. But this time, I didn't hesitate. No more sleeping on that busted coil slab I inherited from my parents' basement. No more pretending the neighbor's midnight lawnmower obsession didn't drive me insane. I sat down on the floor as the confirmation emails hit my inbox. It felt strange at first, liberating and sad all at once. For the first time in years, I had put myself first. Not the garage, not my parents, not Eli, me. And even though I knew a storm was coming, I also knew something else. I was finally out from under it. I waited for the blowback. The first couple days were quiet, which made it worse somehow. I kept checking my phone expecting a text from Dad, maybe something vague like, hey, power's out. Know anything about that? Or Mom calling to ask if the water bill had bounced again. But nothing came. No missed calls. No emails. Just silence. I kept playing scenarios in my head. Maybe they hadn't noticed yet. Maybe Eli was still loafing around in the guest house thinking the fridge magically restocked itself. Maybe Dad assumed I'd made a mistake and was too proud to ask. By Thursday, I was starting to wonder if I had dreamed the whole thing. But that night, Darren and I hit our usual spot, Steelers-themed bar over on 5th, where the wings were always a little too spicy and the TVs were permanently stuck on ESPN reruns. We grabbed a booth near the back. Loud enough to drown out your thoughts, quiet enough to have a decent conversation. So, Darren said, sipping his beer, you look lighter. Like, you're finally sleeping. I chuckled. I bought a new mattress. He blinked. Seriously. Memory foam, I said. Upgraded my life. He grinned. Good for you, man. About time. We didn't even get through the first round of drinks before I spilled everything. The call from my dad. The wedding. Eli's overwhelmed excuse. The years of financial bailing. The moment I pulled the plug. Darren didn't interrupt. He just listened, nodding slowly. When I finished, I sat back and waited for the reaction, judgment, maybe, pity, something. Instead, he just said, Jesus. That's messed up. I raised an eyebrow. Which part? All of it. I mean, you've been holding that family together since high school. You practically rebuilt that garage. And they just act like you're disposable. I felt something tighten in my chest, then release. Like I'd been waiting for someone else to say it out loud so I didn't feel crazy. They only call when they need something, I muttered. That's not family. He raised his glass. To finally choosing yourself. I clinked mine against his and took a long sip. The beer was flat. The nachos were terrible, but for the first time in a long time, I didn't care. I felt light, untethered. And as we laughed over some stupid story from work, I realized the silence back home didn't scare me anymore. It felt earned. The week of the wedding came and went without a word from anyone. I didn't check the family group chat, not that I expected to find anything new. I wasn't tagged in any photos, hadn't received an invite, and judging by the complete radio silence, no one had the guts to even pretend they missed me. So I did something I hadn't done in years. I planned a holiday just for myself. I bought a little fake tree from the hardware store, nothing fancy, about 4 feet tall with soft plastic needles and a lopsided star that leaned a bit too far left. I hung up a string of colored lights across my living room window and unpacked the old ceramic Santa mug I'd stashed in the back of my cabinet years ago. For the first time, my apartment didn't just feel like a place I slept in, it felt like home. I wrapped a couple gifts for myself, stuff I had ordered on a whim and didn't open right away, a new flannel jacket, a tool set I didn't actually need, and a bottle of bourbon I'd been eyeing for months. I cooked an over-the-top dinner, roast chicken with garlic butter, mashed potatoes drowning in gravy, and a side of baked mac and cheese that could have fed 6 people. I ate every bite. On Christmas Eve, I headed to the grocery store to grab some last-minute stuff. That's when I ran into Mrs. Galloway, our old neighbor from 2 doors down. She was pushing a cart full of cookie tins and greeting cards. "Vincent," she said, squinting behind thick glasses. "Aren't you supposed to be helping at the wedding?" I blinked. "What wedding?" Her face dropped. "Oh, I thought you'd be there. Your parents were saying the whole family would be around for Jillian's big day." I forced a smile. "Guess they changed the definition of family." She frowned, clearly confused, but nodded politely. "Well, I hope you're doing all right." "I'm doing great," I said, and for once, it wasn't a lie. I grabbed my bags and walked out into the chilly evening. The snow had started again, just a light dusting this time. Everything looked quiet, still, peaceful. Back home, I poured a glass of bourbon, kicked up my feet, and flipped on an old Christmas movie. No chaos. No guilt. No phone buzzing with guilt-tripping messages. Just me, my weird little tree, and a night that was finally mine. They could keep their curated wedding and their whispered excuses. This year, I chose peace. And it felt damn good. 3 days before the wedding, the silence broke. I was making breakfast, eggs, toast, the last slice of that leftover Christmas chicken, when my phone started vibrating on the counter. Mom flashed on the screen. Then Dad. Then garage office. I let all 3 ring out. Then came the texts. Mom. Vincent, we just got a shut-off notice. Did the gas bill not go through? Dad. The lights at the shop flickered out this morning. What the hell's going on? Then, finally, Eli. Eli. You need to fix this. Now. No hello. No apology. Not even a hint of concern, just a demand, like I was a damn employee. I stared at his message for a long second, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I typed back. I don't do unplanned gifts anymore. Sent. The dots blinked for a few seconds, then disappeared. I turned off my phone. The rest of the day was beautifully, gloriously quiet. I did laundry, took a walk through the park while it was still half frozen and empty, treated myself to a slice of greasy pizza from that joint near Maine that always forgets the napkins, came home, put on music, and assembled the new shelving unit I'd been putting off for months. Not once did I check my phone. By the time Sunday rolled around, I was sipping coffee on my couch, watching a documentary about guys who race snowmobiles in Wisconsin, when I heard the first voicemail. Dad. Son, this is serious. We need to talk. The shop's barely functioning and your mother's freaking out. You can't just cut us off like this. Then Mom. Mom. You made your point, Vincent. But can we just fix this like adults? This doesn't have to be permanent. Eli's message didn't even make it to voicemail. He sent a voice note, 30 seconds of pure rage, blaming me for ruining everything right before the wedding. I didn't bother listening to the end. I blocked all 3 numbers. Then I opened a new bag of chips, poured a drink, and queued up a few episodes of that detective show Darren kept talking about. Outside, the snow had started again, coming down in thick, heavy flakes. Inside, everything was calm. For the first time in years, I wasn't bracing for the next crisis. Let them scramble. I was done being their emergency contact. By the end of the week, the whisper started. Darren heard from a customer who knew someone who brought their car to the shop. Word was, the utilities had been cut for real this time. No heat, no lights, no working lifts. Customers were canceling appointments, and the shop's voicemail was full of, "We'll call you back," promises they couldn't keep. Then came the cherry on top. Eli had taken a job at a music store across town. Not as a performer. Not as a producer. As a cashier. Darren laughed when he told me. But he's never had to clock in before, he said, raising his beer. Probably doesn't know what a time card is, I replied. I wanted to feel smug. I wanted to take satisfaction in watching the house of cards collapse. But the truth was, I mostly felt tired. Not guilty. Not triumphant. Just tired. That afternoon, I got a text from Aunt Sheila. She hadn't reached out in months, maybe years. I nearly ignored it, until I read the first few words. Aunt Sheila. Vincent, I know things have gotten messy, but please don't let the shop fall apart. Your father's not doing well. Your mother's been crying every night. Eli. Well, he's trying his best. Please, for the family's sake, can't you help them out? I stared at the screen, thumb hovering again. Please, for the family's sake. How many times had I heard those exact words? When Eli overdrew the business account, help us out for the family's sake. When Mom took out that personal loan in both her and Dad's name to fund Eli's studio. Just sign this, Vincent, it's for the family. When I missed my own birthday working on a rush job so the shop could keep its commercial client. No party, no thank you, just that you're doing the right thing. That's what family does. I typed out my reply slowly. I've done more for that family than anyone ever has. And not one person said thank you. They just expected it. I'm not doing it anymore. I hope they figure it out. I hit send. Her reply came back almost instantly. And Sheila, you're really going to let them fall apart? I didn't respond. Let them fall. I was done being the net. New Year's Day was quiet. I slept in, made pancakes, played the same Springsteen vinyl on loop while reorganizing my tools. It was one of those rare winter days when the sun actually showed up, bouncing off the snowbanks outside my apartment like a little gift. I was halfway through putting up a new curtain rod in the living room when I heard a knock at the door. Not the polite kind. The heavy, urgent kind that made your gut twist. I froze, waited a second, then walked over and pulled aside the curtain. It was them. Mom, Dad, and Eli standing on my front step like ghosts from a past I'd buried the week before. They looked rough. Eli's hair was a mess, dark circles under his eyes. Dad's coat was hanging open, even though it was barely 20 degrees out. And Mom looked like she hadn't slept in days. I opened the door, just a crack. Vincent, Mom said softly, voice cracking. Can we come in? I didn't answer. I just looked at them. We need to talk, Dad said. Please. I stepped back, letting the door open, but only wide enough for my words. No. If you've got something to say it here. They hesitated. Then Eli spoke. We messed up, okay? All of us. I raised an eyebrow. That's an understatement. I was stupid, he went on, eyes darting to the ground. I thought I could handle everything, but I couldn't. I should have been helping. I should have been. You should have been a brother, I cut in. Silence. Mom stepped forward. We took you for granted. We see that now. We didn't mean to hurt you. We were just used to you being there, fixing things, paying the bills. And when you stopped, everything fell apart. Dad nodded slowly. We thought you'd always be there. And now that I'm not? I asked, arms crossed. We've got nowhere else to go, Mom whispered. The heat's off. The shop's closed until further notice. We're out of options. You need a place to stay, I said flatly. They all nodded. I stared at them. Not with anger. Not even pity. Just clarity. You remember last week, I said, when you couldn't even bring yourselves to call me on Christmas? When you all stood by and let me be uninvited from a wedding happening in the building I saved. No one spoke. I worked myself into the ground for this family, I continued. You watched me pour my life into that garage, and you still treated me like I didn't matter. Like I was just a backup plan you could cash out when Eli burned through another dream. Eli opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. No, you don't get to explain. Not anymore. I looked each of them in the eye. I'm done rescuing people who would leave me to drown. Mom's lip trembled. Vincent, please. No, I said. You chose him. Every time. Now you live with it. I stepped back and began to close the door. Dad reached out, palm flat. Son. I stopped. Don't call me that. You had a son. You just didn't know it was me. And I shut the door. Locked it. Stood in the quiet. Outside, I heard footsteps crunching in the snow, slow and reluctant. They were walking away. And for the first time, I didn't want them to come back. A week into January, something changed. Not dramatically. Nothing loud or cinematic. Just a shift. Like I finally had room to breathe again. It started at Murphy's Diner, the greasy spoon I'd been going to for years. Same chipped red booths, same clock that always ran 10 minutes slow. I usually went there for black coffee and eggs when I didn't feel like cooking. It was my routine, quiet, predictable, no small talk. But this time, someone new poured my coffee. Her name was Tessa. Mid-30s, messy ponytail, sleeve tattoo peeking from under her uniform. She smiled, real casual, and said, "You're the guy with the truck that takes up 2 spaces." I raised an eyebrow. Technically, it's 1.5. She laughed. Only mechanics and liars say that. Next thing I knew, we were talking about old Fords, her junked-up El Camino, and the best nachos within city limits. She wasn't flirty. She wasn't pushing anything. She was just easy to talk to. By the next week, we were sitting on her smoke breakout back, passing a bag of pretzels and swapping stories about our worst customers. It was nothing serious, but it was mine, not connected to my parents. Not something I owed or had to fix. Just simple, human connection. A few days later, Darren invited me to a poker night he'd been hosting for years. I usually said no. Too tired. Too much work. Too many family emergencies to tend to. But this time, I showed up. We played at his cousin's basement, 5 of us crowding around a scratched-up card table. I lost $10 in the first half hour and didn't care. We talked trash, drank cheap beer, and laughed so hard my ribs hurt. No one asked for favors. No one expected anything but my company. On the drive home, windows cracked and classic rock humming from the radio, I caught myself smiling. Really smiling. Not forced. Not polite. Just happy. I thought about everything that had happened. About the silence from my family since New Year's. No more texts. No more voicemails. Nothing. Maybe they were still scrambling. Maybe they were too proud to beg again. Either way, I wasn't waiting around. I thought about what Darren said back at the bar. Family isn't who drains you. It's who shows up when you're not useful. He was right. I don't know what the future holds. Maybe things with Tessa will fizzle. Maybe I'll lose more poker nights than I win. But I'm not going backward. For the first time in my life, I'm living for me. And that, finally, feels enough.